never smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some ditsies. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to run. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome, guys. Miss Liz in the house. That's right. I was not here this afternoon. I'm so sorry about that. But this week, we're only doing evening shows because Miss Liz is spending time with family. It is getting close to Christmas, so we have to get ready for all those little ones. So before we get started, we're going to get everybody over to Miss Liz's YouTube channel, Spotify, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, all of those good platforms, and give those a like, subscribe, and follow, and get these tea times out because they do make a difference. Each guest brings something different, and each guest's tea is different, and we do serve their tea. We don't serve a beverage. So tonight's tea we are serving with Joe Canfield, a fellow podcaster. His tea is toughness, excellence, and energetic. That's right. That's the tea that we're going to be serving tonight, and we're going to talk about those words and all that good stuff and his podcasting journeys and all that good stuff on his platform and what he does. So before we get started, we're going to get over to the disclaimer, and then we're going to get an intro, and then we're going to get Joe in here, and we're going to spill some tea. And I don't know why, but I'm hot flashing. So if you guys start seeing a fan, Miss Liz has got a little hot flash going on, but I'm going to try and calm it down until we get Joe in here. Then I can fan myself a little bit. So the disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live shows. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicated to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I, Miss Liz, is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by the guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guest viewers and discretions are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or decisions that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of this discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit the link tree Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, welcome everybody to another Tea Time with Miss Liz, where we serve truth, purpose, and real conversations that shine a light on humanity. Today, I'm honored to welcome a guest whose voice brings strength, clarity, and heart. Joe Canfield, host of the Salty Ginger Talk podcast. Joe carries over 30 years of leadership as a husband, father, athlete, and business professional. His message is rooted in living with toughness, excellence, and energy, not as a performer, but as a way of showing up fully in every season of life. He reminds us that real masculinity is grounded, steady, and built on integrity. And that success isn't about titles. It's about character, responsibility, and purpose. So grab your cups and settle in as we dive into a powerful and meaningful conversation with Joe Canfield, a man who leads with grit, wisdom, and a heart committed to making an impact. Let's add a little salty to the sweet tea tonight. And let's get Joe in here. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, Liz. How are you?
I am awesome. I was looking forward to this tea time for a long time because I was just like, it's nice to have somebody on here who gets it.
Yeah, I've been really looking forward. So for the listeners that don't know, Liz was on our podcast originally. That's how we met. And we had such a great conversation, and you've just got such a great energy about you. And I so appreciate both your perseverance and your willingness to try to help other people. And anytime I get to reconnect with you is a good day for me. So I'm really happy to be here.
Well, and I always like a little salt added to my tea.
For sure.
So, Joe, I'm going to take you down the first rabbit hole of tonight. And who was Joe as a little guy, and who is Joe now?
At my core, I don't know that I've changed all that much. So I know it's hard to tell by looking at me. I'm super Irish. So when I was younger, that's why. So for the listeners that don't know, salty is because I cuss like a sailor, left to my own devices. And ginger is because I used to have red hair before life got a hold of me and turned it all gray. And so as a kid, I had like Ronald McDonald red hair. My mom loved that my hair's curly naturally. So like I had literally like a Ronald McDonald afro growing up in the 70s and 80s because I'm 53. And so I've always been quick on my feet. I've always been kind of aggressive, going after life and going after the things that were important to me. I certainly was a lot less mature as a younger man, both as a kid, a teenager, and a young adult than I am now. And I've learned over the years that really showing empathy and really trying to understand where people are coming from is by far the best way to relate to them and help provide the leadership that's important to me. Like it's important to me to be a good leader because I've always been as a kid, I was in leadership positions. I'm just one of those people that kind of walks into a room and people are like, oh, what's with this guy? And I like that. Like it's not a complaint in any way, shape, or form. I enjoy it. But I feel like there's a real responsibility that goes with that. I think you need to do a good job of it. And I think if it's important to you, you'll continue to get better at it. And, hopefully 5 years from now, I'm a much better leader than I am as I sit here right now. And I feel like I do a pretty good job of it now. But the minute you say I've crossed the finish line, I can't get any better, I think you got problems. And so I kind of continue to push myself to get better, even when I fall down. And I fall down a lot. Like I'm a human being, right? I screw up a lot of stuff, but I'm very aware of that. And I'm very willing to acknowledge it and speak about it publicly and learn the lessons that life is trying to teach me from those things that don't go the way I want them to, so I can get better going forward. So hopefully that's a kind of a big picture of, one more thing. I have always known, and I've always centered my life around relationships and experiences. I've never chased money. I've never been materialistic. Those things have never mattered much to me. And so the people that are in my life are terribly important to me. And I've built my life around that. Like you talked about, I've been married to my wife for 32 years. We raised 3 sons together, and they're, I always say they've got the right things wrong with them. They got problems like all of us do, but we didn't have any substance abuse problems. We didn't have any misogynists. We didn't have any racists. They're all productive members of society. They treat people well. They're good guys. And so that's always been important to me. And I feel like it's really important. That's the center of who I am. And it's funny because I'm kind of rough around the edges and I go real hard at people and go real direct at people. But that generally works for most people that know me because they can tell it's coming from a really good spot. Like I want to challenge them to be their best. And most people accept that pretty willingly. I really like it.
And that's what I love about you, Joe. And when I was on your show, right? Like we brought the sweet and the salty, right? And it's okay to cuss because you know what? It's being straightforward. There's no sugarcoating anything. We're just getting it out there, and there's a lot of bleep, 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 bleeps going on in the world that, we should actually hear those cuss words and we might open our eyes a little bit more.
Yeah, I think to me, just real quick, the difference there, I think where people, they hear the word and feel like it's directed at them as a personal invective. And generally that's not the case. At least I know when I use those types of words, it's not, hey, you're a blank. It is, shake your blank and head for like kind of dramatic effect. Like You're better than the way you're acting. I know you are. I have confidence in you. I need you to have confidence in you because that's how you're going to get to where you want to go. I want to be your cheerleader, but you got to give me something to cheer for. Like get in the game and start playing and I'll cheer for you, you know?
Yeah, be that cheerleader. I know I'm that cheerleader when I go to the grandkids games. They're like, who's that lady? I'm like, pass that ball or come on, play together, play like a team. Like
I love it.
So Joe, I want to get into the salty ginger talk because I want to get it out there because what you're doing is amazing. You have an incredible guest on the platform. Salty Ginger Talk is such a memorable name. What was the story behind it and how does it reflect your personality and your message to the world?
Yeah. So I came up with the name actually, and I ran it by my wife and she said it's perfect. And obviously no one in the world knows me better than my wife does. I'm pretty unapologetic about being direct and being like you got to toughen up because life is hard. That doesn't mean we can't be empathetic when people are going through tough times and acknowledge that they're going through tough times. But I'm pretty quick to ask the next question, which is, what are you doing about it? Like, got it. Those things happened. I have, my own little catchphrases that I use. You can't unring the bell. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. We don't have a DeLorean like Back to the Future and we can't go back and change anything. It's happened. It might've been really terrible. It might've been really tough. It might have been really shitty. It might have been completely out of your control, but it's happened. So what do we do now? What are we doing about it to learn the lesson that we need to learn to move forward? And so, I started the podcast because I kind of look at our society and like we talked about, we're similar in age. I'm 53 and I'm
I'm
a Gen X.
51.
Yep,
got
I'm a Gen X.
2 years on me.
Yeah, exactly. And the world we grew up in was very different than the world that young people grew up in now that are out in the adult world or whether they're still young or whatever their ages are, right? It's just a very different world. And I acknowledge that completely. There were some things that were harder about the world we grew up in. And there are some things that are harder about the new world that other people grew up in. But I kind of noticed that we've lost as generationally, we seem to be less able to have direct conversations and really communicate person to person. That has kind of morphed into DMs and texts and Snapchats and all the other ways that people try to communicate with each other. And I've got no problem with those things, but in my opinion, they're a poor substitute for actual direct communication, looking people in the eye and having a conversation. And I feel like I started my podcast targeted largely at young men because I raised 3 of them. I was one of them. And I think young men are kind of lost because they're getting all sorts of different messages from society. But I also place a big part of the onus on young men themselves because part of their job is to have a backbone and say, hey, I know who I am. I know what I'm about. You might view what I'm doing as negative, but let me explain to you why I don't view it that way. And if that doesn't work for you, that's okay. We can agree to disagree, but I'm not going to change who I am as a person to try to fit into some picture that society paints for me. Now, I'm making a lot of assumptions here. I'm assuming that you're treating people well. Like, just for real clarity, going back to the 1950s stereotypical version of masculinity is no go. That is not masculinity, where you take a drink and you go out in the garage and don't talk to anybody and you beat your wife and beat your kids, and unacceptable. Not at all what I'm talking about. However, I do know, and look, like you said at the beginning, you give a lot of disclaimers and that's great. So everyone should know I sell groceries for a living. That's my real job, right? I run a company that owns grocery stores. And so I'm not a doctor. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I'm not a therapist, but I'm a pretty educated guy and I'm a pretty experienced guy. And I've developed hundreds, if not thousands, of really good relationships with people across a wide variety of walks of life, of income levels, of ethnicities, of religions, of genders. And so I've been able to do that because I'm not judgmental. And people feel very comfortable talking to me because I'm not going to judge whatever you tell me. I'll ask questions, and I'm certainly not going to endorse decisions that are bad for you long-term or bad for society long term, but I'm not going to say you're a bad person for doing those things, because I've learned through the years that nobody, and I mean nobody, is all good and nobody is all bad. And you don't know what situations they've encountered. You don't know the experiences they bring with them. You don't know what got them to that point in their life when they made the decisions that they made. And it's not your role to judge people. I don't want people judging me. I've done plenty of stuff that if it was on the front page of the New York Times, I'd be embarrassed as hell. And I'm not a bad guy, but I've done bad things, like it just is the truth. And I want to show people the same grace that I would want them to show me if I screwed something up and I earnestly wanted to make up for it. So that's kind of the point of the podcast. And so what we do on the podcast is we bring people on, and I'm not interested at all in the Instagram version of your life. Like, it's great to talk about good things. No problem with that. It's awesome to celebrate good things when they happen. I love good things. And there's lots of small things. Like, I was out. Yeah, I'm in Ohio. That's where I live. And we're towards the end of the season here for golf. I'm a huge golfer. I love golf. Absolutely love it, because it's like a personal challenge. And my wife started playing with me a couple years ago, which I love because it's time with her and it's time playing golf. It's awesome. Her and playing with my boys is my favorite thing in the world to do, is play golf with the people I care about. But she likes to drive the cart and I don't. So it works out perfect, because like the cart is like an amusement ride to her. She loves driving the cart. And so there's a course we play at that's got probably a 300 yard, maybe not 300 yards, but 300 feet. It's a bridge that goes across a lake, and it's pretty narrow. And my wife is super creative. So she's driving the cart and she's taking a video as we're going across, because she wants to make a video of what's going on. And I looked over and I said, "Hey, I just want you to know I'm real uncomfortable right now." She laughed. And I said, "I'm uncomfortable for 2 reasons. 1, it's pretty cold and I don't want to go swimming. And 2, I don't want to have to buy a new iPhone when that one drops in the lake. So can we just mind what we're doing here? I just would feel better saying it out loud."
Like I always say, I'm the passenger in the car, and I always say, keep your eyes on the road, please.
Oh my gosh, exactly. But if you can't, like, if those little moments mean everything, those are the funnest part of life. They're the best part of life. And if you can't appreciate and enjoy those, you got to take a look at how you're thinking about things, because I don't think you're thinking about them correctly. And it's easy to dwell on the bad stuff when you've got all this good stuff in front of you, and you gotta give them both the appropriate amount of weight, is the way I think about it. So that's what we do on the podcast, is we bring people on and we let them tell their story of what they've experienced in life and what they have learned from it. And what we have found, and like, when I tell you we have all walks of life, we have all walks of life. I've had people on the show that have run for governor in states. I've had people on the show who were homeless while I was talking to them. They were literally doing the podcast from a park because they didn't have a home at which to do the podcast, and anywhere in between. And we've had people that have had tough personal experiences, tough professional experiences, tough health issues, all of those things. And what we've noticed is the commonality that helped them get to a better spot. And there's two common things that hold true across every single one of those people. One is, when they started taking action, things got better. When they stopped thinking and stopped worrying and stopped kind of ruminating on all of the things that had gone wrong, legitimate things, by the way, very legitimate things. But when they started taking action to move past them, their lives got better. And the second part is, when they find a motivation that is extrinsic, something bigger than themselves to live for, like you talked about going to grandkids' games, something like that. Like, I've got my family, I've got my grandkids, I've got my faith, I've got a charity that really means a lot to me. I work in the community. It doesn't matter what it is. It's got to be something bigger than yourself that's got purpose to you. And when they combine those two things, they build really, really good lives for themselves. So that's what we've learned, but that's what we do on the podcast. I know it's a very long-winded answer, but that's how we roll. It's Salty Ginger Talk.
He's used to podcasting, guys. This is how it's done. But what I loved about your show, Joe, is that you gave the space to hear the story, to hear the hardness. And I'm the same. Is I want to hear those stories. It doesn't matter where you are in life. on the street or in you know, in the White House. I really don't care where you are. How did you get there? What did you do? What did you find? You know, there's so many poor me, poor me, poor me. And that's where I cuss. And I say, you know what? Everybody has their own shit story. But what are you going to do with that shit story? When are you going to stop serving shit and start serving you and start moving forward? Like you said, the action, take the action, you know, and tough love. Like we need that tough love, you know, stop sugarcoating everything. Life is hard for everybody. And that's what I liked about your podcast when you had me on, Joe, was, you know, Liz, what did you do? How did you get over your shit? I'm not over my shit yet. I'm getting through my shit.
That's true for all of us, though, right?
Because when I was on your show, I said, that's it. I'm done with podcasting. I'm out of here. Like, I am done. If you listen to my episode with Joe, I said that I was leaving. And I did leave for 8 months. And then I came back and I said, you know what? No, we need platforms like you and I have that serve all walks of life, not just the titles, not just the high enders, you know, because we all started at the bottom somewhere.
I was so excited when you sent me that email and said you were picking it back up. I still remember reading it going, fuck yeah, we got Liz back in the game, baby. Another one on the good side.
But you get overwhelmed. As a podcast host, you yourself see this, Joe, you know, where people lose the empathy. They're no longer having those conversations that one-on-one and getting to know a person, like you said, person to person. We need those conversations going on. It's nice, like camera and action and titles and celebrate, but we need those interactions person to person. And that's what I really loved about your platform and your podcast. And you know, you don't hold back. Like you bring the salt to the table and you say, you know, this is the way it is. I didn't know that you started for the young men though. And I'm glad that I know that now.
That's how we started. It's absolutely morphed because the reality is people are people. Now, look, there are, I know this is controversial in today's society. I don't understand why, but there are pretty clear genetic differences between men and women in the way their brains are wired, the way their bodies are wired, the hormones that are in their bodies. And so they might approach it a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, we all want to find a place in life where we're accepted, where we're around people that care about us, where we can have great experiences, where we can just feel valued by the people that are around us. And so, we kind of took the blinders off and said, hey, why don't we just open this up for everybody? And when we did, that's actually when our podcast took off. So that worked really well. I really just like when I see like some of the really bad messages that go to young men about how to treat women and men versus women. That's just bullshit. It's just absolute bullshit. And we're not going to get anywhere as a society if we take that track. And I was hoping that I could start something that would provide a different viewpoint and a different voice. And that seems to have resonated with our audience. So we're very pleased with how things have gone to that point. And you're right. It's so I do 5 podcasts a week. I'm kind of nuts. And look, I'm the CEO of a company, so I've got a full-time gig, but I do it around that because it's so important to me. I feel so strongly that it's such a good thing for people. And we do 3 where it's a guest and we interview that guest. And those episodes are not about me. Those episodes are about the guest. And I want to extract as much value from that guest as possible. So like you saw, I just ask a couple questions and then shut up. And so they talk probably 85% of the time on those. And look, there's no time limit on them. If they go, we had one that went 3.5 hours and she was just an awesome lady. And I loved every minute of that conversation, but she had a lot to get off her chest and she wanted to get out in the world. And I think the world's a better place like her name's Shahada. She's out in Los Angeles. She's a personal trainer and a life coach and a mentor. And she's just an awesome lady. Like the world's a better place for having her viewpoint out there so people can hear it directly from her. So that works really well. And I learned so much personally from all my guests. And that's a really cool thing for me.
That's what I say to everybody. I learn something from all of my guests. Every single episode, they have me do my homework after the show. I'm just like, what? How come I didn't know that? Where is that? Where's that service? How come I don't know this stuff? I learned so much through podcasting. It is like a new classroom for me. It's teaches so much about individuals and communities and countries and families and how we interact with each other, how we have those conversations. Joe, I want to get into marriage because you've been married for 30 years, and that we don't see that very much in today's world, right? What has kept you guys together for so long?
I think we had a couple of advantages. We got married very young, and I'm certainly not advocating for people to run out and get married, but I was 21 and my wife was 19 when we got married. And so we grew up together. We didn't know anything different. I think personally, it'd be very hard to be an adult, call it mid 20s, early 30s, and have built a life and then try to fit that life in with somebody else who had done the same thing already. Certainly not impossible, but for us, that was a big thing. Like, we've been in this together from the start. Literally everything we owned when we got married fit in the back of a 1983 Honda Accord, because it was my 1983 Honda Accord, and it broke down in the middle of nowhere, California. And we had to leave that car on the side of the road. And my father-in-law came and picked us up. So that's where we started at. And then you have to be respectful to your spouse. You're not always going to agree on everything. You're not always going to be happy with everything. You can disagree without insulting your spouse. And I think it's so important. I can't remember a single time I've ever called my wife a name or my wife has ever called me a name. Now, don't get me wrong. We've had our share of disagreements for sure. You don't go through, we've been together 33 years, married 32. And so you're not together as long as we have, where you haven't had serious disagreements about things, but we do those things in a respectful way. And we think about it like, hey, it's not you versus me. There's not someone trying to win this argument and someone trying to lose this argument. It's you and me against the topic or issue or problem that we're trying to solve. How do we get to a resolution that works for us, that moves us forward towards where we want to be, and still we get to respect and love and care about each other? And so I think if you just focus on those things, it takes care of itself. Now, the challenge there, I think, is you got to do it like daily, like every day. And it's all sorts of little stuff. Like, my wife drinks, the bubbly water. That's all she drinks. And so I have a fridge that's just got bubbly water in it, and I check it once a week. And when it gets low, I go buy more and make sure that there's water. So she's always got what she wants to drink. That might sound stupid, might sound like a little thing, but it's a way that she knows that I care about her, that it matters to me that she's happy, that it matters to me that she's healthy, and that I'm going out of my way to do something that brings value to her life or makes her life better. And she does the same for me. And we set our relationship up on very traditional vendor roles. So we decided I was going to go out and build a career and support our family, and my wife was going to stay home and raise our kids. And it's funny because neither of us had a burning desire to have children. We definitely wanted to be married and to each other only. But we didn't have a burning desire to have children. But like, once we did, like, the first one was just a mistake. Like, he was oops. And so once we had one,
Oops,
like,
don't do that again. Oops, it came along.
Exactly. But like, you have a responsibility there. We created a person. We have a responsibility to give them as good a life as possible and do the best we can for our child. And my wife is like, we fit our roles perfectly, because my wife is by far the highest emotionally intelligent person I've ever met in my life. She's an amazing, amazing woman. She's really easy on the eyes too. She's a good looking lady, but I haven't been with her for 33 years because she's a good looking lady. She's 1,000 times better person than she is physically attractive. And she was and is the right person to cover all of those things. And then I've always been pretty willing to charge forward and be aggressive about going after things. And that works really well in the business world. And so we set our relationship up like that. But my point of saying all that is, I always truly valued and respected and showed and told her how important what she did was, and showed it daily. And she did the same for me. It wasn't, hey, I just worked a 16-hour day because it was not uncommon at all for me to work 16-hour days for long periods of our life. And I never got home to, you don't care about me. All you do is work. You don't spend time with the family. She knew that by me doing that allowed her both the time and the resources to build the family that we were building together. And so she always supported that. And then same for me. When I'm gone for 16 hours, that meant she was at home for 16 hours with 3 boys under 10. That's not a fun place to be. And that's so important though. And I always valued that. And I always told her how much I appreciated it and what a good job she was doing. And you can't just say the words, you got to actually mean it. But that mutual respect is what our relationship is built on. And that's why I think our relationship has lasted as long as it has. So for what it's worth, though, that's my take on it.
So Joe, you did the oops the first time. What happened the other 2 times?
Well, we didn't want to just have one kid. So if we wanted more than one, we didn't want to be, have an 18-year-old and a 6-year-old. And so we said, you know what, let's start having more. And then once we were debating between 3 and 4, but pregnancies were really hard on her. And so once we got to 3, we were like, yeah, we're going to figure out what's causing this and get it fixed. So that's what we did.
No more oopsies.
That's right. Yep. That's right.
But and that's how we learn how we can handle stuff too, right? Is by having those little oopsies, because we have to find solutions on how to take care of them. And it shows us how to grow as well as individuals and that as well. And as a couple, right? Because we fall in love and we're just like, we don't think about the little ones coming around right away. And then, you know what, you have a little bit of too much fun. And then sometimes it's like, okay. We should have had less that Saturday than we did the Saturday before.
True story. I can speak from experience on this one.
Well, my grandpa used to always say, well, the train passed and everybody else was sleeping, so we had to make some babies. So
yeah, I don't regret a thing, but it's absolutely false to say we planned the first one because there was no planning whatsoever.
So Joe, let's get into your tea. And me and you were back on this for a while. You were like, Liz, what is this tea? And I was like, don't overthink it. Just give me words that explain you. So the tea that you gave me was toughness, excellence, and energetic. But then I see energy here. So I'm not sure which one, if the E is energy or energetic. I guess they're both the same, right?
I think it depends on the context you're looking at it from. So like from an energy perspective, I'm a big fan. And this goes back to, I went through college on a baseball scholarship. And so, I played baseball at a pretty high level. I never wound up signing a professional contract, but I had the chance to play professionally. My wife and I just got married. It's a tough life. I don't regret a single thing about walking away from it. And I loved every minute that I played baseball. I loved everything about it, the commitment and the dedication, the teamwork, the camaraderie. I loved all of it. But I learned that whatever you think kind of has a way of manifesting itself. So if you bring a negative energy to something, things aren't necessarily going to go your way very often. And a lot of that has to do with how you think about it. Conversely, if you think positively, a lot of times you can manifest that because you believe in yourself. You're going to work a little harder. You're going to be a little looser. You're going to have confidence in yourself. And so the energy that you bring to any situation is going to have a big impact on how that situation turns out. And then, like we've talked about, compete's a verb. You got to do something. It's an action word. And you've got to be energetic when you do it. And think about the people that have really motivated you in your life or the people you really look up to. I would venture to guess they were doers. They did stuff. That doesn't mean like running marathons or climbing mountains or that type of thing, but they showed up all the time, right? If you wanted to talk, they were there to talk. If it was 2 a.m, hey, I'm there. I gotcha. Whatever it was, but they had energy about what they did. So I just think that's terribly important.
So where's the toughness come in?
Besides
the Irish. I know that the Irish were tough.
Yeah. I'm fortunate. I was born with a DNA, and it's funny because I don't drink. I've never been drunk in my life. And the stereotype about Irish people, which is a stereotype because it's largely true, is we drink and we fight, right? That's what Irish people do. And so I fight twice as much to make up for my lack of drinking. But I learned early in life that things aren't always fair, and life's not always going to be good to you, and you're not always going to get what you want. But I looked around and said, hey, you know what? This happens to everybody. And the people that wind up succeeding are the ones that pick themselves up and go back after it. And my parents instilled that in me as well. I was wired that way naturally. And then I was in athletics, and athletics teaches you that you're going to lose a lot of games. And that doesn't mean you're bad. It means that day your best wasn't good enough, or maybe you didn't bring your best and you learned a lesson from that. And so anyone that is successful now has a past riddled with failure. I will guarantee you that successful people have failed a lot more than unsuccessful people, because they've tried more things and they failed at more things. They've succeeded at a couple at a pretty high scale, but successful people have learned how to manage failure, and that takes toughness. And so for me, that's where the toughness comes in. I mean, the physical part is great too. And I am physically tough, but my toughness is really more about the mental toughness that you need to build the life that you want. Because it's not always going to go the way you expect it to or the way you want it to. And you got to learn to deal with that.
I like that you put that mental toughness, because we don't talk about the mental toughness, right? Everybody thinks the word toughness, and they misunderstand the word toughness. They think it's like, ooh, let's go. We're ready to fight, right? The mental toughness. What has kept you going with that, Joe?
So I try to reframe how I think about things. So if something bad happens, I try to reframe how I think about it. For example, I've been fired exactly one time in my life. It was very unexpected. I got called into an office on a Friday and let go. And literally on the drive, and I'm the primary breadwinner, right? So, and I don't make an insignificant amount of money. So it's not like I could just go get a job somewhere else that replaced the income that I was making. When you get to the level of business that I operate at, those are typically 6 months to a year to find another opportunity. But I can remember driving home from being let go, and I was not expecting it. It was a surprise to me. And saying, you know what? This is actually going to wind up being one of the best things that ever happened to me, because up until then, I had always been like an indispensable person. I was like, whenever there was a problem, I got the call. It was like, throw Joe at it. Joe will figure it out. Joe's like a cat. He'll land on his feet. We can throw him up in the air. He's going to figure out a way to land on his feet. And that really kind of underscored to me that, hey, you know what? The corporate world doesn't really give a shit about you or me or anyone. Like it's the grave. I always say the graveyard is full of indispensable people. Like the person you can't live without, they're going to kick off someday. I hate to say it, it's just the truth. And so I learned, you know what? This is going to be good for me, because I've got to consider other options. I don't want to be at somebody else's mercy. I don't want to be caught up in a political issue, because that's what happened with me. I stood up for what I thought was right, and some people disagreed with me, and they, behind my back, won an argument I wasn't involved in. And it is what it is. Like, again, you can't unring the bell. They weren't going to unfire me. They were going to call me back and go, hey, Joe, we made a huge mistake. Get back in here. We need you.
30 steps backwards.
Exactly.
Let's do this shit again.
Yeah, it's done. Like, it's over. It is what it is. But even on the ride home, I recognized, hey, this is going to open up all sorts of other opportunities, because it's changed the way that I think. And so to me, that's what toughness is you, when you deal with something where you get an outcome that you didn't want. And I try to avoid the word success and failure when I can, because I think it's got positive and negative connotations, when the reality is you get an outcome. You took an action and you got an outcome. If you liked the outcome you got, keep taking that action, because you want to repeat the outcome, right? If you didn't like the outcome, go back and look at the actions you took and learn what lessons you can to apply those to future opportunities, so you wind up with a different outcome. And so even in like that situation, which was really kind of a gut punch when it happened, it took me about 20 minutes to go, all right, got to reframe this here. We got to think about this. It is what it is. This is where we are now. How do we move forward from this? So when I look and I see other successful people, you just hear story after story after story of people who tried and failed. And there's one of my favorites is Colonel Sanders, how he started Kentucky Fried Chicken. Have you ever heard that story?
Yep.
Yeah. I love that story, right? He's knocking on doors. He gets told no 1,000 times, but won't quit. and he finally licenses for, in all places, Salt Lake City, Utah is where he opened the first restaurant. Who would have thought Kentucky Fried Chicken would be founded in Salt Lake City, Utah? But he literally was knocking on doors down Route 66 and wound up in Salt Lake. So successful people refuse to quit, and that takes mental toughness. And so that to me is where I draw my strength from and that learning from.
Yeah, I have an issue with KFC right now.
I didn't mean to pick it
Somebody changed the recipe of the gravy and the chicken. I don't care what anybody has said. It is not the same. Mr. Colonel is gone, so you guys think you guys can change it? I don't think so, man. I'm a chicken girl, and I know my chicken.
Right.
But it took him a long time to get that chicken out there. And look at people are playing with it. Leave it alone. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
You know, the other part about that story is that he got his first Social Security check and realized it wasn't enough for him to live on. That's when he started trying to. He was in his 60s when he started Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah. So all my listeners out there, yes, Miss Liz is I'm ticked off with KFC. I just told my spouse last week, I was like, we're not doing chicken anymore. Like, find another chicken place.
Exactly. Where's that Church's at? Where's Popeye's?
I don't know. If it's not broke, don't fix it, guys. Just leave it alone. Like,
right.
Leave the chicken alone. Well, Joe, we have some lightning bolt questions that I want to get out to you that came in for you, and I want to get those out. So I'm going to start with blue feels like, finish it.
The color blue?
Yep.
It makes me think of the sky, right? Kind of wide open horizon, limitless possibilities. That's what I think of when I think of blue. I picture like an open blue sky. Like if you've ever been to Montana, there's a reason they call it big sky country. It feels like the sky is limitless out there.
I just learned something about Montana. Look, you're giving me homework to do. Take a trip to Montana, Ms. Liz.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
One word that defines your mission, Joe.
Leadership. Like leadership is really important to me. I feel like the people that have experience have an obligation to pass along the lessons from that experience to make other people better. And that's when I think of leadership, good leaders make more leaders. They don't create followers. They create more leaders. That's the job. And it takes confidence to do that because you're essentially training your replacement. You're training people who are going to pass you or do better than you. And you should love that. Like you should love having your name all over those people. Like I knew that guy when he was nobody and I helped him get to where he's at. Now I hope he'll give me a job.
Right. And I am so glad because leadership, we need more openness on leadership, right? It's not about building yourself. It's about building somebody else up and giving them those tools and tips to get to that leader of the room. And sit in the back. Sometimes you learn so much when you're a leader, when you sit in the back. Like I do. I learned about Montana tonight. A quote you live by, Joe.
There's a couple of them actually. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Henry Ford said that. It's better to keep your mouth shut and appear stupid than to open it and remove all doubt. Mark Twain said that. If you're going through hell, keep going. Winston Churchill said that. And then the obstacle is the way. Marcus Aurelius said that, meaning whatever your problem is, the only way to get over your problem is to go towards it and deal with it. So yeah, I love, there's lots of quotes. I know it's supposed to be one, but I can't just pick one.
No, I like them. More for me to dig because I like quotes. I think quotes are empowering and they're like a solution, right? They give you that hope to move forward.
Well, it's like Winston Churchill too. If you're going through hell, keep going. What are you doing sitting around looking? Like, get through it, man. Get out of there
and move.
Exactly.
Well, you got 3 wheels. Okay, well, pick it up and let's go Flintstone style. Back in the day, they had solutions. They didn't sit around and wait for the tire to come and get repaired. They got up and they used their feet and carried the car.
That's right. Do what you got to do.
Right? You always find a way. Song that fires you up for a challenge.
Did you say a song?
Yeah, a song.
Oh, yeah. Whole Lot of Love by Led Zeppelin.
Ooh, nice one.
I contend that's the best love song ever written.
Really?
Yes.
Why do you think that?
So if you listen to that song, it jumps out of the box strong, and then it just kind of builds and builds and builds, and it ends up even stronger. And it's very kind of feral and animalistic, which is a good fit for me because I'm very feral and animalistic. And so yeah, that song, I love that song. Plus, just if you think about they made every sound on that record by themselves. There weren't synthesizers. This was Led Zeppelin released that song in 1969, and there weren't synthesizers, there weren't studio effects. Every single sound you hear on that record, they made it. And I think it's just so creative, and it really just kind of conveys like kind of an intensity that really fires me up.
I like Led Zeppelin. I did an oopsie, but
That makes sense. That makes a ton of sense.
oops, did I say that out loud? Most valuable lesson from your marriage?
I would say the most valuable lesson is I don't think there's a single decision you'll make that's more important than who you choose to spend your life with. And I have fucked up my share of stuff. I have got a lot of things wrong, but I got that one really, really right, and it's made my life so good. It just underscores to me how important that choice is, because jobs come and go, money comes and goes. Look, I've been homeless twice. During my marriage, I've been homeless twice. And so I've been in places where I'm in a really good spot. I've been in places where I've been in a really tough spot, but I've always been able to count on my wife being there right next to me, going through the same things I'm going through. So yeah, who you choose to spend your life with is the single most important decision you'll ever make.
The next one, the best advice you ever gave your sons. We have to bring the boys in somewhere.
So there's two of them. There's two. I'm going to use two things here. One, when they all got of age and started becoming really interested in girls, I told them, there's three of them. I told them at that point, I have bought condoms and I have bought diapers, and condoms are cheaper. So buy condoms and use them every single time. I don't care if a girl tells you she's on the pill. I don't care if a girl tells you she can't get pregnant. It is your responsibility to ensure that she doesn't get pregnant. So that's one. Number two is I always told them I would prefer if you didn't drink, but like I'm a real person. I understand how the world works. If you're ever in a spot where you or the person you're with has had too much to drink, you can call me and I will not say a word. I will come pick you up. I will not yell at you. You will not be in trouble. If it happens 3 times in a row, we might have a conversation, but I would much rather get up at 2 a.m. and come pick you up than go to your funeral. And so never, never, never drive or get in a car and let someone else drive that's had something to drink. And then the third thing I told all of them was, it's not my job to be your friend. It's my job to be your dad. And I'm the only one in the world that can do it. I hope that when you're teenagers and young adults, we get along. However, if I have to be the hard ass and do what needs to be done, and that means that you'll grow up to be good men and productive members of society, I would sign that contract immediately. If you were going to hate me for 15 years and be good men, I would do it right now. If I had some assurance that you were going to be good men, I think that underscored to them both the importance of our relationship and the importance of them taking their spot in the world seriously. So those are the three things that come to mind.
I think that's really important. Like those 3 things that you taught those boys, like each one is meaningful and does make a difference. And for all the fathers out there and mothers out there, those are the conversations we should be having with all our children. I say to my kids all the time, I'm not your friend. I might want to hang out with you, but I'm not your friend.
Yeah, I like you. Don't get me wrong.
But I'm not your friend. We really got to start having those conversations with our children. These conversations that come to the tea and the questions that come in, sometimes they take us down rabbit holes and really open our eyes. to what matters in life, and our children matter. And you telling them to call me at 2 a.m, and I'll drive you. I like that, because there's so many people that have passed away because of drunk drivers.
Yeah.
That one hit a little home, because I know people who have. So thank you, Joe, for saying that to your boys.
Yeah, it was always my biggest fear as a parent. Like, that was the thing that concerned me the most about them. Boys are idiots and they make bad decisions, and I don't want that. Bad decision is one you can't take back sometimes.
Joe, the hardest decision that shaped your life.
That's interesting, because I don't struggle a lot with making decisions. I will say, let's do this. The best decision that I ever made was moving to pursue my career. It's funny. My wife and I were just talking about this the other day, because I hear a lot in our country about how it's so unaffordable to live in New York, or so unaffordable to live in Los Angeles or Houston or Chicago or wherever. And that's all true. Totally got it. Nobody's making you live there. Nobody's forcing you to live there. You can pick up and move and find a job and build a life where things are much cheaper. Like, I live in Cleveland, Ohio now. Cleveland's cheap as hell. Like, I live here on purpose, and I pursued things. And, from where I was when we moved to where I'm at now, my income's gone up 6x what I was making back in the day, because I'm willing to go after things. And so for me, that decision that, hey, home is wherever your family is, and home is what you make of it. It's not a destination, because I'm originally from Portland, Oregon. That's where I was born and raised. And you don't have to be there for home to mean something. Home is where the people you care about are. At least that's the way we see it. So I would say that decision, the willingness to say, hey, I know everything I've ever known in life is here, but I'm going to go pursue other things and see how it works out. That's been a really good decision for me and my family.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Joe. A book that changed your mindset.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Good to Great by Jim Collins. Mindset, it's actually called Mindset, by Carol Dweck. Grit, which is by Angela Duckworth. On the lighter side, I loved the Chronicles of Narnia, all the books written by C.S. Lewis. As a boy, I read all of those. I loved those books, and just kind of imagining, a different world and all the magical things that happened there. It was kind of it was Harry Potter when we were kids, but yeah, all those books had big impacts on me.
I knew the grit would come in somewhere.
Well, Angela Duckworth is a psychologist at Stanford, and she did a study on what makes people successful. And more important than intelligence, more important than money, more important than genetics is persistence, grit. Like, it's literally refusing to be defeated, refusing to quit, refusing to give up. That's the biggest. If you have that characteristic and can develop that characteristic, her research shows that it's the single biggest determinant of whether you're going to be successful or not.
Did I lose you there for a second, Joe?
I don't know. I quit talking.
Good technology. It went quiet for a second.
It might have surprised you. It might have surprised you that I quit talking, but I didn't quit talking.
That was all part of the plan. That's the grit.
There you go. Let people think about it. Let it sit out there for a minute. Let them think.
Right? We have a question that came in, and it says, what's one powerful question they can ask themselves to begin living more intentionally and purposely, for the listeners tonight tuning in?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's actually a really easy answer. What do you want? What's important to you? Not what society tells you, not what your family tells you, not what you read somewhere. What's important to you? Because that's how you're going to find purpose. There's no right or wrong answer, by the way. So it is entirely what's important to you. So if you can start there, if you've ever read the book The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, one of the 7 habits is successful people start with the end in mind, meaning they set a target. They know where they want to go, and then they build a roadmap backwards from where they want to get to where they're at right now. So if you know what's important to you, you can build a roadmap from where you're at on how to get there. And it's so important to understand where you want to go. By the way, that can change too. You can start down a path and go, you know what? That's not important to me anymore. I'm a perfect example of that. From the time I was 3 to the time I was 20, I was going to be a professional baseball player. Like if you asked me in 4th grade or when I was 4 years old, what I was going to do when I grew up, I was going to play professional baseball. And for me, it had nothing to do with the money. It had nothing to do with the popularity. It had nothing to do with the fame. I didn't even know that professional baseball players were rich and famous and popular. I loved competing, especially in that sport. And then I met my wife, and all of a sudden, none of that mattered to me anymore because I'd found like the exact right person for me and where I was at. So the way baseball works, like if you get drafted by an NFL team, you go to the NFL team. If you get drafted by an NBA team, you go to the NBA. If you get drafted by a baseball team, you go to the minor leagues. And they pay you almost, it's changed now. It's actually a lot better for minor league ball players now. But when I was playing, the minor league contract was $925 a month. And that was only during the season. Yeah. Wow. I literally made more as a grocery store checker than I did would have as a professional baseball player. And all of a sudden it didn't matter to me, but I knew I was right. I knew that me and my wife were meant to be together. And so I walked. I was talking to the Reds, the Cubs, and the Padres about a free agent deal, and it just wasn't important to me anymore. I was like, that's a tough life. We're young. That'd be tough to drag because you don't go to the same place every year either. One year you play short season A-ball, that's in one city. Next year you go to long season A-ball, that's another city. You get bumped to Double-A, that's a different city. And you don't make enough money to have your own apartment with your wife, so you're rooming with 4 other guys that are on your team. And I knew that lifestyle wasn't anything for us, and my wife's and our relationship was more important. So I just walked. So I had an end in mind from the time I was 3 years old, and then I get close to it and I walked, and a lot of people thought I was nuts. I'm like, no, I know exactly what I'm doing because that relationship, which is still the center and foundation of my life 33 years later, has worked out really well for me. So you don't have to see it through no matter what, but you have to know where you're going. And then you want to set your life up so that you're taking little actions every day that keep advancing you towards that goal, because it's rare to make quantum leaps, right? It's like you don't go from, you don't lose 100 pounds overnight, for example, or you don't learn a subject. You don't get really good at algebra overnight. You do it through a series of efforts over and over and over again. And if you know where you're going or want to go to, you can set your life up so that you're consistently taking a series of actions to move yourself towards that goal. So that's my very long-winded answer to, to that question.
No, it's good. You're the podcaster. We got this. Joe, if anybody would like to know more about Salty Ginger Talk, how can they find out more? If you could spell out the websites for the audio listeners out there so they can check you out and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So we have our own website. It's saltygingertalk.com, SALTYGINGERTALK, all one word, no spaces. Where our primary delivery of our podcast is on YouTube. So we do a video podcast. We also produce it as an audio podcast. So it's on Podbean. You can find it as Salty Ginger Talk on Podbean. We like the video because being able to see our guests talk about the subjects they talk about, I think has even more impact because you can kind of feel the passion and the emotion and kind of the realness of them sharing their stories. But yeah, if you want to know more about us, the website's the easiest way to get to us. And then the YouTube channel is where the probably the best place to check out the podcast is.
Well, I really enjoyed this conversation with you, Joe. And I love the video because I can see if my guests are rolling their eyes or not. Did she really just ask me that?
See if they're checked out or not. Yeah.
Not that you're texting and answering somebody else during the conversation. You're actually engaged with me. That's the way I like it with the video. Well, I really want to thank you, Joe, for joining me on Tea Time tonight. And I want to thank the viewers that tuned in tonight from Kenya, I believe, and Toronto, and a couple other places are in here. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I'm just going to give a closing summary and we're going to wrap it up. And then I will see everybody on Thursday and then on Friday. There is no tea time tomorrow.
Thank you, Liz, so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Really enjoyed our conversation.
I really enjoyed this too. Like we opened rabbit holes that I didn't even know about. So.
I love it.
What an inspiring tea time this has been with Joe Canfield. His words remind us that strength is not loud, it's consistent. And purpose isn't something you find, it's something you practice every day. Joe showed us that showing up for your family, your community, and yourself requires intention, discipline, and heart. And that the real legacy we leave is built in how we love, how we lead, and how we live when no one is watching. As you reflect on today's tea time, ask yourself, where can I bring more purpose into the way I show up? And what energy am I choosing to lead with today? Thank you, Joe, for pouring a grounded and powerful cup with us today. Your message is reminder that excellence is not an achievement, it's a lifestyle. I'll see everybody on Thursday and we'll do this all over again.